Most businesses fail for the same 3 reasons, and the worst part is almost every business is doing one of the 3. Last year alone, over 1 million startups went out of business.
What are some warning signs that your business is going downhill?
Every year, business gets harder and harder, and more people fail. But if you want to build a successful business, all you got to do is... What's up, dude?
Hey, Jared, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing pretty good. What is it? I love how we just started out
It's
with like, not
Wednesday.
knowing what the day is.
It's Podcast Wednesday, dude.
Yeah,
It's always
it is
Podcast Wednesday.
Except for when it's Podcast Friday.
We podcast on Wednesday and it comes out on Friday.
Yeah,
It's a
except for when we
magical thing.
podcast on Friday and it comes out on Friday.
Occasionally, that has never happened.
Well, it happens every time we podcast on Friday. It just comes out the next Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I got a question for you. This is like, we're getting right into it today, guys. Just want to let you know. Jared, so when you use your calculator on your phone, do you sometimes get confused and think it's your phone and you start dialing on it like it's your phone?
All the time.
Yeah, me too, man.
Non-stop.
Really?
Here's why.
Non-stop.
Because
That's impressive.
Literally, I use my phone for 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
My calculator and to call people.
So you just have 2 apps open? Yeah.
And I'm always using my calculator.
Yep.
Like, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many of our conversations end in me pulling out my phone and calculating something?
No. How many of our conversations end in me pulling out my phone, trying to figure out whatever you just asked me to figure out that I should know that I don't know? Most of our conversations.
That's like 99%.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if we're at work or if we're at a barbecue. At some point, a calculator gets whipped out.
Sometime. Yeah. Happens all the time. I do it all the time.
How long
I feel
does
like an idiot.
How long does it take
every
you to
time.
figure out that it's a calculator?
I'll get like 8 letters or 8 numbers deep. And I'm like, oh.
You're like, where's the call button? Oh,
Yeah, what am I doing? Yeah.
Have you ever done it the opposite? Like started punching?
No,
Okay,
I haven't.
That's good. I've never
I've
done
never
that.
opened my phone app and thought it was the calendar.
I've never done that. It's just the other way around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. Hey, dude, phones are hard. Numbers are hard.
Hey, it's just proof.
Yeah. If you can do it,
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Just a bunch of idiots over here.
Just a bunch of idiots playing on their calculators.
Dude, today we're going to talk about how I want to say I made my yard guy $48K, but I helped him make $48K.
Yeah,
An
did the
extra
work.
$48K to his business. He did all the work. Yes. He took all the risk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we added $48K to his business, and it wasn't by doing anything like he's actually working less, making more.
Yeah.
Just by making a few small tweaks
Mm-hmm.
and a slight mindset shift in your head. That's it. And all of a sudden it unlocked. Not only did it unlock an extra $48K for him, but now he can start hiring people and growing his business. Right?
Oh, because his business is now running at a point where he's profitable enough and he has the proper model so that he can
Correct.
actually do things
Correct.
instead of just have like a crappy yard cutting job that
Correct.
pays $0.
So now he's set up to where he could turn that into a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
the reality is, if he kept going, he could make a lot more than an extra $48K.
Yeah.
But yeah, so went from cutting yards making 0 money to now cutting yards making $48K extra after paying himself, which is cool.
Yeah. So that's just, profit after paying himself.
Yeah, which is rad.
Nice.
And the problem is, we have all these home service businesses that start up. What is it? It's like there's 4 million. We were just looking at this. There's 4 million new businesses that start up, and 1 million of the new ones go out the very first year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's 25%.
Yeah. 25% of new startups go out in that first year.
Within the first 5 years, I believe it goes up to like 96% go out of business.
In the first 5?
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you think about that, you just started a plumbing business, a yard business, or whatever, and your odds are not in your favor, right?
No, they're definitely against you.
They're definitely against you. Like, most people fail.
When you started your business, did you get the sense that the odds were not in your favor?
Yeah, I failed like 3 times.
Yeah, but like when you started, were you like, oh, dude, like this?
No. What happens? This is what happened to me, and this is what happens to everybody else. They're like, they look at their paycheck,
Of course.
and they see, okay, for me at the time, I was making like $1,200 a week, which is pretty good. But then I was looking at I worked for a commercial plumbing company. And then I was looking at what I could charge per hour. Actually, this is what I did. I didn't even look at my paycheck. I looked at what I was making per hour, and I looked at what I could charge per hour, and it was like three times the amount.
Sure. So then you just were like, that's the money I make and keep.
Yeah, and I was like, so I can make 3 times the money if I go into business for myself.
Yeah, you kind of thought like an employee, because like
Yeah.
as an employee, you'll typically think if I get a raise on my paycheck and then
Yeah.
you multiply it by all the hours you're going to work, you're like, I could make this much.
Yeah.
So you just went into it with that same mindset.
I remember I was sitting in my brother's basement. I was working on his boiler, and I was in the middle of starting my own business, and my brother had bought his marketing agency at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
My brother worked for a guy, had his marketing agency, a local agency, and they did okay. Like he made a couple $100,000 a year. The old owner was able to pay himself a couple $100,000 a year every year for like 20 years. And he's super saver savvy, put it away in retirement accounts, was able to retire. Decent retirement. Nothing wrong with that. And my brother had worked for him for probably 8 or 10 years at that point in time. And my brother had been in advertising ever since he got out of high school, basically. And he bought the business from the owner because he wanted to retire. So he bought it for, I think it was like $500,000, if I remember right. And he paid him over the $50,000 a year over the course of 10 years. And I believe it was interest free, which is funny because hearing that, it's like, oh yeah, 50 grand a year, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
But when he did that, I was like, dude,
Sure.
I don't know. You got to pay him $50,000 a year.
Yeah, because at the time you're probably thinking like that's most of my wage, most of my yearly wage. Like, how are you going to pull this off?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just going to give your entire paycheck to this guy?
Yeah. And so he ended up going in and like learning business and kind of turning this thing around. And he's still turning it around to this day, making it better and better. And so I remember I was there in his basement. I was cleaning his boiler, doing some plumbing work. And I was like, like I'm working hard. Like, why am I making my boss rich?
Of course.
When I can get rich? Like all that money could be coming straight to me.
Yeah, I could be making like $120 an hour.
Yeah.
Straight to my paycheck.
Yeah. And then what happened was, so those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Then what happened was you go into business for yourself and you start to realize that I don't know where all this money's going because you don't have an understanding of how the fundamentals behind the business work, right? You don't have an understanding of money comes in, money goes out, and what's left over is what you get to keep, right? And you don't understand how much money goes out. You don't even know where it's going.
Sure.
Half the time.
Yeah, because when you started, like, what did you do? You just had like a credit card and you'd go and you'd buy stuff at the supply house and then you'd go and do jobs?
Yeah, when I first started, I started with a business partner.
Sure.
And we started going out and just doing whatever work we could get our hands on. We bought the stuff to be able to tune boilers because we knew like, okay, we don't have any money, so what can we do to get money quick? And that was an easy one. Everybody needs their boiler tuned every year in Alaska.
Did you start around quote unquote boiler tune season?
No, we started like, I want to say it was late in the winter. Yeah. And yeah, we were working after work and on weekends.
Sure.
So we were able to put away okay amount of money and buy some tools and kind of get set up and that kind of stuff. And that's probably how I would do it if I did, if I had a job and I didn't have any money. But then like the second time, so I thought still, well, let's go back. That business, I ended up giving it to the other owner of the business. Yeah. He wanted to work a ton. I didn't want to work a ton. He wanted to go after commercial work. I wanted to go after residential work for no good reason. I just liked it more.
Gotcha.
And so he still owns the business to this day. It's still named J&J Mechanical. And I don't know if he still works his ass off. My guess would be that he does. But yeah, he's done okay for himself, right? Probably better than he thought he would ever do. Right?
Sure, yeah.
But then even the second time, so I went into business 3 times. And it wasn't until I think the 4th time until I was like, okay, I got to figure this business stuff out. And even the second time, it was like, I quit my day job and I went to work full time in my business. My business was J Rod's Plumbing and Heating. And I still had the mentality of, I'm going to bill out $130 an hour. I was making like 46 at my day job. And I was like, I should be able to at least double my income.
Sure, yeah, because
Right?
the math sort of makes sense.
And so I would throughout the year bill out like $398,000 of work. But then at the end of the year, I only made 66,000 of it. So only 66,000 was left at the bottom line. And I think I paid myself like 40,000. So there was 100,000 in there, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I wasn't like hurting. I wasn't dying.
Yeah.
But to bust your ass all day, every day and only make 100,000. And then knowing like on my last job, I made 100,000 plus benefits.
Yeah.
Like my total package was like $170,000.
Yeah.
So I'm basically $70,000 shy.
Yeah.
Plus I'm taking all the risk. I don't have health insurance and I'm not paying in my retirement. It didn't seem to, and I'm working more.
Did you have like a moment where you were just, did you have like an aha moment where you considered all those things that you just described?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I would just thought like, well, you just can't, this isn't doable.
Yeah, I guess this
This
doesn't
is why,
work.
and I would think this is why you have owners, because I saw tons of owners who own businesses just like that, where they just work in their business till the day they die or till the day they finally decide to retire and they sell their business for pennies on the dollar and hopefully their wife has a retirement.
Sure.
I thought that's dumb. So I went to work for somebody else and then I did it again thinking I could make it better. And then the 4th time I was like, you know what? I got to figure this out. And so just learning the idea that, okay, my business has expenses and I need to figure out mathematically how much I need to charge the customer in order to cover those expenses and still have money left over at the end of the day. That's what I needed to do. That was unreal. And then having the realization that customers are willing to pay a lot more than you think.
Sure.
And you know what's funny? I still succumb to that to this day
In what way?
in all sorts of ways.
Give me like a recent example.
I don't want to. It's top secret.
Give me a non-top secret recent example.
Okay. I think customers are willing to pay a lot more than you think. And we just kind of restructured all of our pricing in my plumbing business in order to shift money around to make it more cost effective for the customer. And I think that's a good thing, but sometimes I'm like, am I just falling back into wanting to get this price down for the customer?
Because it's still uncomfortable. Like I think,
Yeah. It's never comfortable.
yeah, because regardless, like even your good customers are still in their brain like, boy, it would really be nice if I didn't have to pay all that money.
Well, that's the thing. Then nobody if you're in the home service industry and you're going into somebody's home, they don't want to pay you.
No.
No.
They would much rather spend that money on literally
Anything
anything
else.
else, right?
It doesn't matter if you're mowing yards, cleaning houses. Cleaning houses might be different,
Sure.
but nobody wants to spend like half their paycheck on getting their house cleaned.
Yeah, and even mowing yards, I'd put it in that category because,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to mow. But, like, when something breaks in my house,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, like, emotion that come with it because you're like, this sucks. I'm pissed. And I got all this stuff
takes
going
time
on.
out of your
Now I got to
day.
pay some guy. I was really hoping to buy this thing with that money, but
Yep.
now I got to chunk it into
Yep.
this. And
I was really hoping to get, I don't know.
I was hoping to get a gun.
I
but
was
now
hoping to get that
can't.
new gun. I was hoping to grab 1,000 rounds of ammo. And now I can't.
Yeah, now, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It sucks. And so that's the boat you're in.
Mm.
But the reality is, like, most of the time you go to somebody's house, they're going to spend the money and you might as well make money off of it.
Yeah, I would say you're obligated to make money off of it because that's why you're in business.
Correct.
And I think knowing your math gives you, because at the end of the day, even with your pricing structure that you read in your plumbing company,
Yep.
I assume you can still fall back on the math and go, well, no, it's still maths.
It's still math.
So if it's still maths,
Yep.
then you can go, okay, so maybe I'm not just trying to get into the comfortable zone of charging customers less so I feel better.
Correct.
because the math still says, no, we're still making money here.
Correct.
So then you have this checks and balance thing going on.
Correct. Okay. So check this out. So when I first moved to Florida, because I just recently moved, oh gosh, that was like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Kind of recently.
Isn't that weird?
Dude,
Feels like yesterday.
I was talking about this with somebody where even my dad, because my dad I had just moved here like a year ago, almost to the week. My dad was like, oh yeah, so how's it feel living in Florida for like 8 years?
Yeah.
And he was expressing the sentiment that I feel, that I felt like I've lived here for 8 years, or I've just lived here. And everything else that's happened in my life has just been like a thing, but I've always usually been here.
Yeah.
It's very strange. Time is very peculiar that way.
Very peculiar. Okay, so I moved here 2 years ago, and in Florida, we're in the Panhandle. The grass grows for 9 months out of the year, and then it goes dormant for 3 months.
Sure.
So you don't have to mow it during the winter.
Yeah.
So I would have thought, man, if I'm going to start a lawn mowing business, I'm going to start it in Florida where they have year-round mowing, but they don't, which blew my mind. Like,
Yeah,
why?
coming from Alaska, where you're like, what do you mean it doesn't grow? It's still sunny and kind of warm out.
It's always warm. Yeah, I don't understand. I honestly don't understand why people do that, because the grass turns brown for 3 months, and I think it's ugly.
Yeah.
When we could have year-round grass, and it would be green.
Like if we just did different grass types, like seeded differently.
Yeah, different grass types. But pretty much everybody, you'll see people that have green yards all year long.
Yeah.
So I know it's doable.
Yeah.
But typically most people have grass that gets cut 9 months out of the year, and then 3 months out of the year it goes dormant, doesn't grow, turns brown, it's ugly. And so we get down here, and it's like May. I buy my house, May, June, July, sometime I'm in my house. And it's the first time I've ever lived in a neighborhood where you have limited space.
Sure.
We have an okay sized yard, but no like storage shed or anything like that. And I'm thinking, if I buy a lawnmower and gas, where am I going to put it? In my garage?
But your garage is nice. Like
So
where
then
we
I-
come from, we put cars in the garage in Alaska.
Yeah.
And people do that in Florida, but really, you and I both
Weirdos.
appreciate our garage. I got a free room.
I love it.
Yeah, I can put all sorts of stuff in
Yeah,
here.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I mean, I guess I could have got like a Milwaukee lawnmower, but I'm looking at the Milwaukee lawnmower. It had just come out. I
Like the
believe.
electric one or something?
Yeah, with the battery operated lawnmower. And it was expensive.
Yeah,
And I
what
was like,
was it, like $600 or something?
I think it was more than that.
Yeah.
It was,
The Ryobi one is like 600.
I think it was like
And if Ryobi's
$1,200
600. Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds about right.
and so I'm looking at this, expensive lawnmower, and I tell my wife, like, let's just hire somebody to mow our yard. Like, we have the money to pay for it.
Yeah.
Why would we spend the money on the lawnmower, the time
Dude,
keeping the lawnmower and all that, and then finding the time to mow your yard?
I couldn't imagine you right now going, I would love to go mow my yard. I feel like you'd be like, dude.
No, I hate mowing my yard.
Yeah.
So, and if you're a business owner, reality is you shouldn't be mowing your own yard, because you could use that time to do something else.
Yeah.
Which
Arguably, unless like you really love mowing your lawn and that's like your moment of like peace and like solace.
some people really dig mowing their lawn. If that's you, that's fine.
If you're listening to this
I think
podcast
you're
right now
weird.
while mowing your lawn, Jared thinks you're weird.
I think you're very weird, but that's okay. So, we don't know where to find a guy to mow our yard. So my wife downloads this app, and she gets a guy out to mow our yard, and it's like $26. And this guy shows up with his truck, his trailer, weed whackers, gas cans, his driving mower, and mows our yard for $26. And I'm like,
Was it the lawn guy?
yeah, $26.
$26.
And I'm like, I told my wife, there's no way that guy's making money
Yeah, for $26?
for $26.
He's probably thinking, well, if I mow 2 lawns, per hour, that's $50 an hour.
Yeah, probably. That's probably how he thought. So come to find out, if you use him through the app, he doesn't make any money. The app actually takes some of that money.
Some of the $26?
Some of the 26. So
Jeez.
my wife starts talking to him. We finally start paying him.
Real quick, how long did he mow the lawn at $26 through the app for you guys?
It was like 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, gotcha.
It was a little
Mowing
while.
every week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mowing every week, once a week. And so my wife is like, well, I'm going to go talk to him. Talks to him. He's not making money. He makes more money if
What was
he
the
doesn't get
question
paid
that she
to-
asked?
Yeah.
Was she just like, "Are you making money?"
I don't know. That wasn't part of that conversation.
I'm trying to think of what Crystal would say to
I
him.
was sitting in here working.
Yeah, working your butt off.
Making
funnels and stuff.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, okay. Well, I think at that point in time, he had raised his rates shortly after we'd stopped paying him off the app. He raised it to like $30 a cut. I'm like, there's no way this guy's making money. Long story short, eventually he got to somewhere around $60 a cut. And it stayed there for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think when we hired him, I feel like it was more than 60. I feel like it was like 70
No,
when I hired him.
60.
Really? Okay.
$60 a cut. Well, on average.
Okay, sure.
Average cut price, $60. Okay. So and my wife gets to know him fairly well. I start saying hi to him. He's a really cool dude. He actually listens to this podcast. So he's probably like, I don't know, sitting in his truck right now going, telling me these numbers aren't accurate, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Super nice guy. So I get to talking to him one day and tell him what I do for a living. And he asks one time, like, hey, he comes to me. I'm outside talking to him. He just mowed my yard and he said, hey, man, I'm thinking about shutting down my business. And I said, why? Turns out he was possibly going to have a baby and his wife could go back to work and make way more money than he was. And I said, dude, you're sitting on a gold mine. Like, you can make a ton of money with this business. And he said, yeah, I might go take a job for $40,000 a year at, Navy Federal Credit Union. I said, yeah, let's sit down because I think you're sitting on a ton of money and just with a little bit of restructuring, you could probably make way more money out of your business. So we sit down, he comes over and I run him through my hourly rate calculator and we go through all of his expenses. We figure it out if he had 3 crews out there running around, mowing yards. And,
Same structure that we always talk about.
and he was paying those guys $40K a year. So imagine you're a kid out of high school making $40K a year right off the bat, mowing yards for this guy 9 months out of the year. That'd be pretty cool. And we come up with an hourly rate that he needs to charge. And it was like, I think it was like $160 an hour, $130 an hour or something like that. And so we boiled this down to like, okay, well, what's your average? Like, let's think about it in terms of my yard. You know, you mow my yard 4 times a month. How much time do you have into it? And it comes out to like a bunch of money per month for him to mow my yard.
Sure.
And I'm like, man, how do you make money with a yard business? Like, there's got to be a way to do it. And he was like, you know, what really sucks about my business is that I only make money 9 months out of the year. And then the other 3 months, I got to figure out how to make money.
Yeah, if he doesn't make enough, then he's just like, I guess I got to get a job for 3 months.
I'm just burning cash. So what we did was we took his hourly rate and I said, you know what you need to do? Did you guys sign up for this?
I don't think so.
Is he still mowing your yard?
Yeah.
You had to have signed up for it.
I don't think so.
Your wife signed you up and you don't even know.
She would never. She is not the person to sign us up for anything.
Oh,
I'm the guy who signs
she
up for
signed
stuff.
up and you don't even know.
No, I pay the bills.
So
I
he
still get an
switched.
invoice. I
He
pay it.
switched everything over to a contract. So now, rather than because before he was getting $60 a cut.
Yeah.
So the math works out like this. Okay, he would mow my yard once a week. That for 9 months. So that'd be $2,160 to maintain my yard for 9 months.
Okay.
Now, what he did is he switched over to a year-long contract. So you sign up for 12 months, and and he has different packages of if you want it mowed once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, or 4 times a month. You can pick your package, okay? But they're all 12-month packages. And what he did is he took how much it would cost to run for those 9 months and spread it out for the extra 3 to decrease the monthly payments so that it's worthwhile for the homeowner. And then he gets his income for those 3 months where he wouldn't normally get income.
Yeah.
Right? So the new model went from, $60 a cut, $240 a month literally just had to go to $309 per month, but gets an extra 3 payments in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's $3,708 per year that he makes per customer, an increase of $1,600 per customer.
Per customer.
Yeah, which is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how many customers he has?
So this is the cool part. I believe he had like 60 customers.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talked to him, I said, well, did you raised your prices, you went to a contract, did you lose any customers? He said, yeah, about 20%. And I said, cool. So how's it going? Like, are you making more money? He goes, absolutely. I'm making more money and I'm doing less work. And I said, isn't that cool how that happens? Just by switching that one thing in your business, going from paying every time you mow somebody's yard to a 12-month contract where you actually know your cost of doing business and how much money you need to make a profit. So he goes from 60 customers making roughly $100K a year, $130K a year, somewhere in there, with zero profit, to now he's down to 40 customers. He can add another 20 customers onto this contract. Now he's making $48,000 profit a year. Now, if he added another 20 customers, his profit margins go through the roof.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So now he could be making $100K a year just by himself mowing yards. That's it. Super simple. With 60 customers is all he needs to make $100K a year profit out of his company.
How many yards can one guy mow? Like how many in his company specifically?
I think we talked about that. It was about 60, somewhere in there.
Kind of like capped out at 60, which I can understand his like issue before he switched, because he's thinking like, I literally can't mow any more yards. Like this is as much money I could possibly make. So I guess I just have to quit it.
And here's the thing too, like the other thing that was going bad was like he would mow our yard and he would email us a bill. And then we would never pay it because
it gets lost in your 15,000 emails.
That's what happens when you email people bills. And as a customer, I don't want to have to go find a bill and pay it.
Yeah.
Just take my card and bill the damn thing.
Yeah.
So now he bills you every month. You don't have to go find it, which I love.
Oh yeah.
I think it's awesome.
That's how everybody should do it.
And that's how you want your customers to think as well. If you have customers that want you to send them an invoice so they can mail you a check, get rid of that customer and go find one that'll just let you charge their credit card every month.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah, like utilities down here. You always got to get your utility bill and then go and pay it online. There isn't any auto
dumb?
pay. Yeah, it's the only bill I have that isn't an auto pay bill.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah.
Stupid.
I know. It's like,
it's stupid for the utility company.
It is.
Because they're not getting out a lot of those payments on time.
No.
Yeah.
And then they're paying somebody just to watch their AR.
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
Their financial director is probably just responsible for keeping the accounts receivable to a certain percentage, and that's their job.
Yep.
Can you imagine what a crappy job?
Terrible
call
job.
people for money.
Terrible
every day.
Job. Awful job.
Yeah. Hey, my wife had that job.
She kind of still does for a minute.
She kind of still does. Okay, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. Okay. So what's awesome about this story is that literally anybody could do that. And literally anybody could it took us 2 hours to think about this and to make the changes in his business. 2 hours and a spreadsheet. Now, by the way, if you want the spreadsheet that we filled out with this guy, it's in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description. You can grab our playbook. Hopefully that link is still there. If not, you can comment and we'll pop it in. And in that playbook, there's a link to our hourly rate calculator and a 45-minute video on how to use it. So you got no excuse.
Yeah, and also
whatsoever.
It's like a real tool.
It's a real tool.
And even the playbook is a real tool, because I'll talk to guys and I have to. It's not like I have to convince them. I just have to demonstrate, like, hey, man, that playbook, it's not just a crappy thing that we give you because we want to get your attention.
Yeah, it's literally like all the crap you need to know.
Yeah, it's like if you just take the playbook and you actually read it and then you take action on the things that you learn, you can learn the business model for residential service business and then make more money.
Yep. Okay. If you're you may still be on a month to month.
I am.
Okay. Here's what I would do if I was this yard guy. Ready? I would make the month to month more expensive,
He did.
even more expensive than this.
Yeah, I don't
And
think it's more expensive than that.
And I would
I'd have to
say,
look
well, how many times do you get it cut?
twice.
Twice. What does it cost?
90.
It's $90 per cut. So you're paying $180 for 2 cuts, and I get 4 cuts for $309. So I get a better deal. Okay. So maybe he did do this.
He probably did. Like he probably raised it.
What I would say is, hey, if you sign up for a 12-month contract, I'll give you a 10% discount.
Yeah.
And I would build that 10% extra price into my pricing so that when I discount it, I still make my 20% net.
Yeah.
And the people who wanted to pay me month to month, I'm actually making more profit on.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason I would do that is because that's going to make your customer way stickier.
Yeah.
They're
Because if they leave and then come back, they're not going to get the 10%.
right. I would say, hey, as long as you're a member, you get 10% off. They're not going to go. They're like, oh, cool. I'm part of this cool yard guy maintenance plan. Number one, I don't have to think about my yard anymore. Number two, I don't have to store more anymore. Number three, because I hired them all year long, I'll get 10% off. I don't ever have to think about it again. And guess what? You don't think about it again. I never, ever, ever think about my yard or who's mowing it or how much it costs because it just goes on my credit card every single month.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, it actually is nicer. I should switch just because then I don't have to worry about paying. Like, it's just easier because then with my budgeting, I just only, oh, here's the yard charge for the month instead of like, oh, yeah, I have another 90 that's going to be coming out in roughly 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It makes my budgeting simpler.
Yeah. And if you like your yard guy and the economy, you would switch to Foremost. So
Yeah, but I have my own personal economy. So it's like, I mean, if you really want to make an obstacle course where we shoot guns and lift weights, then I can't get mowed 4 times per week.
I'm working on it. I've been looking for land. So I've been looking for a house to buy with more land on it so that I can build my own shooting range because I think it would be fun. And then I was like, you know what? I should buy land where I can build a shooting range for everybody else to use. And I was like, that'd be sweet. Have like 8 bays where you can come and just have it set up for like running drills. No like long range stuff. Just literally like you come to my range to like, and there's like some cool pistol steel targets or things you can pull or spinny things or whatever. And then target stands and a bunch of barrels and stuff that you can set up for your own little obstacle course setup.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. And nobody does it here.
Yeah.
Nobody.
There's a couple things in this town that nobody does that I think work well.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like what?
I want to start a rock gym.
There's a rock gym down there.
Yeah, but it's not a good one.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Have you gone?
I haven't gone, but it's mostly top rope and like it doesn't really advertise itself as a rock gym. It's like, yeah, we sell clothes and there's a rock gym in the back.
It's like some owner started a business and he was like, this is my rock gym would be cool. If I build it in my business.
If I was him, I'd be like, yeah, I got a retail business, but I also want to climb this wall every day. I'm just going to do this myself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the only reason why I'd want to start a rock gym so that I could have somewhere to go climb.
Yeah. Rock gyms, that'd be an expensive endeavor.
Yeah, the startup, I think, just the cash to get it started is really expensive. Once you got it started, especially within military communities, because really what it is an alternative fitness. Because like people get bored of normal fitness, but when you're like, hey man, you want to climb a wall, but I also have gym equipment. I have showers, I have saunas, I have cold plunges, I have an espresso bar and a normal bar. You come and hang out at this joint, and you get swole, and you get to do all this other stuff, and it's fun. Bring your kids here. We do birthday parties. We do all these things. Like there's a lot that you can play with that you drop into a community like this. People are like, what is this thing? Because it's like kind of hip and cooler. You put it downtown somewhere, and then, people go climb on their breaks with their lawyer jobs or whatever. And it'd just be fun because then I'd have somewhere to go climb.
Heck yeah.
You just need like $500,000 to set it up.
Heck yeah. We could do it. Okay. So what's cool about this, now yard guy's making a lot of money. Decent money, way more money than he was.
He's actually he's being the business owner he wanted to be, and now he's actually making a paycheck.
Yeah, which is rad. And now he's sitting on a business model. He's discovered a model that is profitable. And now all he has to do is do more of it.
Yeah. Now he probably has to lean into the marketing side and the
Correct.
growing and the scaling. Because I don't know, does he do any marketing of any kind?
He is now because he's
Okay.
making money.
Yeah, sure,
which
because
is
he
awesome.
can afford it.
Yeah, now he can afford it. So now I would take this business, right? Now that you have this model figured out that's actually making money, and then you could turn this business into a multi-million-dollar business.
Mm.
So, and in order to do that, you know that one crew can handle 60 customers, and you know that you're going to put them on a 12-month recurring revenue model, right? And during those 3 months, like he comes out a couple times a month and trims my bushes for a few minutes.
Sure,
right?
because that's part of like the package or whatever.
Yeah. So you're still going to have work for your guys to do. And then also during that 3-month period, you can be getting ready for next mowing season, right?
Yeah, can you be doing a lot of like door-to-door sales and junk?
You could be going door to door. You can be getting more trucks ready. You can be repairing equipment. You can be doing all sorts of stuff. Like 3 months isn't a very long period of time.
True.
And
Especially if
on,
you get like a pretty big crew, lots of equipment.
Yeah. And if you're on the 12-month recurring model, then you have the cash flow to keep them there for those 3 months.
Yeah, so you can keep your guys doing something.
Correct.
And I feel like what I haven't seen from lawn guys is a door-to-door salesman who shows up with a laminated card and a big spiel about how this is super rad, like the bug guys do.
Yeah, I wouldn't have my yard mowers do that.
No, you'd have like probably the business owner until you hit whatever point you can afford a sales guy.
I would
when
hire
you're
a
really
sales
pushing
guy.
on it. Yeah,
I'd put an ad out, door-to-door sales guy.
true. Because then you don't have to like run yourself through sales training.
Yeah.
Although I kind of feel like
Nope.
no, you don't think
I would
so?
hire.
Well, yeah.
I would hands down hire that guy, and I'd pay him on commission. I'd
Yeah.
say, you go door to door. I want to hit these neighborhoods because I already have some people over there. I would think about location, right? So if I had a neighborhood where I had very few of the yards in the neighborhood, I'd want to go get more in that area so that when
Yeah,
I
sure, it's
go
more
into that
efficient.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
it's more efficient, right?
You can just hit that neighborhood in one sweep instead of like, oh, this one, this one, this one, this one.
Yep. Even if you got to come back for 2 or 3 days, as long as you're in the same spot,
Yep.
good to go.
Yeah, as long as because again, it comes down to like efficiency. Like you need to be using the more you can efficiently use your time, that means you're billing out more of your hours.
Yep. So what I would do is I would make sure I had a good logo. Well, I'd make sure I had a good name first.
Yeah.
Just like any other business. Like
What's our lawn guy's name? I don't even know the name of his company.
I don't know. I don't want to say it on the internet.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure,
if
sure.
he wants to say it or not. I would come up with a good name. I would get a good logo made. I would wrap my truck in a nice fancy vinyl wrap. I would get that designed by a good company. I would hire a marketing company to market my business. I wonder if I would hire a marketing company for a yard company or not, or just start doing door to door. I feel like door to door would be so effective.
Yeah, I mean, like,
You
okay,
put a,
tell me what you think about this because I'll talk to plumbing business owners.
Yeah.
And I'm always like trying to give them the best perspective I can.
Yep.
If they like, not making enough to qualify for our programs or whatever. And I'm like, I go down the guerrilla marketing list and I always hit door to door. And they're usually like, yeah, but nobody likes door to door. And I mean, sure, nobody really likes door to door.
That is not true.
Okay, good. So this is my perception is that, okay, sure, quote unquote, nobody likes door to door, but solar guys do it,
Yep.
bug guys do it,
Yep.
security companies do it, and there doesn't look like they're stopping.
No.
So like it seems to me that
It
you
works.
knock enough doors, somebody's
Yeah.
going to open the door and you can sell them whatever you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
Or else all these companies wouldn't be bugging you all the time.
No, here's a true story. I was outside in my garage fixing something. Oh, I was working on my fence. That's what it was. My fence was falling apart. I took the gate off and I was adding a bunch of wood in there because whoever built it was an idiot. And they literally cut like tiny little like 1-inch slivers of a 2x4 to fill in pieces and then tried to put 3 screws through it. And it was just a jumbled up broken mess. It was the dumbest thing ever.
Did you discover this as you were repairing it or did you
Yeah.
like spot it from
As I
along?
was repairing
And you're
it.
like,
like
what
my
is
door
this?
was like falling off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I got to fix this.
And then you're like, wow, I see what's going on here.
And my wife yelled at me for like 4 months. And so finally I went out there and decided, you know what? Yeah, I'll fix it.
Yeah, slow to move, but once you're in action.
So I'm outside, I'm fixing my door, and this lady walks by and she's new to the neighborhood and she goes, because they just built like a gazillion homes over there. And she goes, "Are you putting a new fence in or fixing an old one? And I said, I'm fixing an old one. And she goes, oh, do you own a fence company? And I said, no, this is my fence. She goes, dang it. I was like, why? Why do you ask? She goes, well, I've had the solar guys come knock on my door. I've had the whatever guys. I've had guys wanting to do my concrete and paint numbers on my, paint my house letters on my concrete. But what I really want is a fence, and nobody's come knock on my door yet.
Dude, no fence. There's no fence door knocking going on in the neighborhood.
Dude, what?
If you were in our neighborhood, man, if you were a fence/patio builder,
oh, dude,
you would destroy.
Don't even get me started on patio builder.
Like, everybody wants a patio in these neighborhoods.
Everybody.
And they just don't even know it yet.
They don't.
Like, I'm telling you, they have no idea. But like these yards are typically pretty small, but they're nice because it's Florida and you can sit outside. But if you have a nice patio, it's a game changer.
Yep.
And if there's
Fire pit will sell them every time.
Yeah, I mean, like I could sell, sell. I could just go sell for these guys easy. It's not like, hey man, like, have you thought about a patio back there?
Dude, here's the thing. Okay, first off.
Meanwhile, while I'm doing your fence,
if a fence company just went and knocked doors on all the people who didn't have a fence already, they would probably sell a ton of fences.
It's pretty easy too because you can just look and go.
There's no
they
fence.
Don't have a fence.
Hey, have you ever thought about putting up a fence?
And then you
want me to give you a free quote right now?
Yeah, and you're like, hey, guess what? I just talked to your neighbor. He's putting up his fence, so you get a discount. Yeah. Just because I already got a side built.
Yeah. If you guys share a wall, I'll give you both a discount. You can split the cost of that wall.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And again, you do the same principles. You got a good name. You got a good truck wrap. Yep. You answer your phone.
You wear a polo shirt. You look halfway decent when you're going over there.
Try to be as not sweaty as possible.
Give them an estimate on the spot. Mm-hmm. Like, come up with a price, like, this many square foot to this many square foot costs this much.
Based upon some math that you've looked at your numbers.
Oh, you want to add in a gate? Yeah, it's this much more to add in a gate.
Maybe you have some options for gates. Or
you want to add in a double door gate? Yeah, that costs this much extra.
Mm-hmm. And you want the fence in today? I can get you today.
And build the freaking estimates on the spot, present it to the customer. And then if they say no, or I need to think about it, call them back the next day and say, hey, I'm just calling to check in to make sure you guys didn't want to move forward on that fence. You would make a ton of money. Tons and tons.
It's like almost disappointing, like how much opportunity there is for those types of things.
There's so much opportunity in this world. It's wild.
And it's kind of like there's just this little resistance, even with like the door knocking part.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I get it. It's scary to knock on a stranger's door and like have that conversation because you're entering into this little confrontation zone.
Hire somebody to do it.
Yeah, there's people who
pay him a straight commission.
Like, go on YouTube. You'll find like people who are down to do that kind of stuff because they make a ton of cash.
Put a job ad out on Indeed that says door-to-door salesman needed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, probably door-to-door salesman for a fence company, paid on commission, easiest sales ever.
Yeah, easiest sales ever. Like expected earnings. Call for expected earnings.
Yep. Patio, that'd be a great one, man.
Oh yeah. And like
if you did like hardscape for yards who were flat, where the doors were close to grass level, and then you did, I mean, hardscape is probably that's the best one in my mind. Like even here, there's a bunch of Cubans that live here. Cubans put in my patio. Some crazy white guy came and gave me an estimate who I didn't trust whatsoever. If he had a polo on and he looked decent and a company vehicle that was wrapped, I would have paid him twice as much to do my patio. I wouldn't have paid him. He could have quoted me twice as much, and I would have said yes.
Yeah.
But instead, this guy came here, quoted me. I have no idea if it was a legitimate price or not, but I didn't trust him. I didn't trust that it was, I gave him money and that it was actually going to get done. I was worried he was going to steal my money.
Yeah.
Had he come here without a crazy haircut, nice haircut, clean clothes,
got the sticks
a
out of his
polo,
beard,
company logo on his truck, a nice looking truck, I would have been comfortable to pay double for my patio. And all he did was call up a company. It's like 4 Cuban dudes and their wives came here and put my patio in one day. Just slammed it out, right? So he had that one connection and probably made decent. I don't know if he made money or not, but it doesn't look like he was making any money.
Yeah, or at least he wasn't using it to make his business better.
True. So yeah, there's tons of opportunity out in the world,
Yeah.
tons and tons. So if I was going to grow a yard business specifically, right? I would probably go door knock. I would make sure that I was on Google, that I had a website, that you could call my business and talk to us and get a quote to get a contract to mow your yard. I would make sure that was able to happen, but then I would just hire door-to-door sales guys because everybody has a yard.
Everybody has a yard.
And I would say, look, let's go door to door and let's sell yard maintenance.
Man, and the beautiful thing about like in neighborhoods like ours where you have to have your lawn mowed, like then everybody knows they have to do it. Somebody's got to do it at some point or they're going to have to like pay a fine or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like you just have to go around and figure out who doesn't already have a yard guy and then convince the people if they mow it, like, hey man, like you don't have to do that. And like, check out what I can do for you.
Yeah.
Like think about all the time you get and all the stuff. And
Yeah.
like a good door-to-door guy could probably knock down a lot of yard guy sales.
Oh, yeah. But even if he only knocked down like 2 a week.
Yeah, sure. I guess.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And he did it for an entire year consistently. You would have 108 new customers every year. You could add 2 full-time employees every year. And those full-time employees can make you probably 80K a year. Well, let's do the math.
Oh, math time.
We got to do some math, dude.
Yeah.
Because if you got, on average, we're going to say everybody's signing up for 4 cuts.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you're either getting 2 customers at 2 cuts or 1 customer at 4 cuts.
Okay.
Either way, they're going to give you the same amount of money, right? So if you have 60 customers per crew and they're paying you $37.08, that's $228,000. And all you have to pay out of that $228,000 is the truck, the insurance, the mower, maintenance, and 2 dudes. And you don't got to pay these guys a ton of money.
Well, yeah. You don't have to have you're not looking for these crazy qualified guys.
No.
Like even paying above quote unquote market value for these guys isn't going to be like a ton to you.
No. So I would probably keep my labor at like 60. So I would pay like one guy 40, one guy 20. Like guy who you have on consistently, I might pay him 40 and then give him a helper that can go do all the weed whacking and blowing. That you pay like 20K a year or minimum wage or something like that. That would keep your labor costs under, it'd be like 25% labor costs. And then all you have to pay for is gas, insurance, and maintenance on the equipment. The rest is profit. So if you could maintain, let's just assume you maintain, we'll say 20% profit out of that. You're making $45K per crew that you have out in the field. So after 1 year of door knocking, you increase your profit by 90K.
Wow.
Just 1 year. So 2 years in, 2 years, you're going to start getting word of mouth plus door knocking. Like you're going to grow exponentially faster.
Yep.
And you can start spending more on advertising elsewhere. So at that point in time, I'd probably start spending on Google pay-per-click because I guarantee you there's not too many yard companies who can afford pay-per-click.
No.
So your competition on pay-per-click is probably pretty low.
Yep.
And a lot of people are probably searching like yard maintenance or lawn mowing company. I would start paying for those words. And I would make them when you pay for PPC, there's broad match, there's exact match, and then there's phrase match. I would make those phrase match so that you're not getting people just searching for yard maintenance or those kinds of things. You're getting people specifically searching for you. I bet you could do pretty good. So I bet in 1 year you could probably have 4 crews running around and you could be making 180K off your yard business. And you wouldn't have to be one of those crews.
Yep.
That'd be killer. Then you start getting more door knockers, start setting up for more crews.
Yep.
Every time you pull in for that 3 months and you don't have much to do, that's when you're like, hey guys, we're going to go get 4 new trucks, 4 new mowers, 4 new trailers.
We're
We're going
ready
to get
to
them
go.
all set up.
Yep.
And we're going to get 4 new crews in here. We're going to spend the next 3 months, month and a half training them so that they're ready for the next season.
If they're efficient, they have good customer service, they do all the things that they look the way they're supposed to look, all the things.
You take your apprentice from last year and you bump up his pay, and now he runs his own truck and has his apprentice, and he gets to make $40K, and the apprentice makes 20. And that's how you train him in. Cycle him through. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just don't at least where we live, I see driving around town, I'll see a couple lawn care wraps.
Yeah.
But nothing that I'm like, oh, I see a bunch of this company.
Yeah.
And nothing that I'm like, oh, wow, that really stood out to me, this lawn. It's typically pretty normal as far as what I would consider normal quality, lower quality style.
Yep.
Branding, logos, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Okay, here's the thing. Now, let's say you get this to 10 crews. 10 crews just mowing yards will profit you $450,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty decent cash for a pretty simple business. All you're doing is mowing yards.
Yep.
You got everybody on a subscription model. It's relatively easy. You got your routes mapped out. You know exactly how long it's going to take. You can say, hey, today you're doing these 4 yards or these 3 yards or these 5 yards.
Yeah,
you got to work until they're done. And then I would put these guys, me personally, I would put them on some sort of performance pay system.
Yeah.
So rather than paying them 40 and 20, I would say, hey, you get a certain percentage of however many yards you cut in a day. So if they want to, now I would still want to be looking at quality, right? If you're getting quality complaints from your customers, well, then you got to pull that guy in and say, hey, and make him go back to fix his mistakes, right?
Yeah.
That's going to fix his commission. So say, hey, you had some quality issues.
You're going too fast.
We can't have that here. I know you want to make more money, but if you go too fast, you got to go back and fix your mistakes. You actually make less money. Let me show you how many times that happened last month. Okay. So put these guys on a performance-based system and you can make $450K just from mowing yards. But here's the thing. My yard guy was at my house last week, and I'm looking out at my bushes, and on the bedding of my bushes, the mulch, right? It's looking terrible. It rained. I didn't have gutters up, and it rained down into the mulch. When it rains here, it rains hard, and that mulch all got washed out into my driveway, and it looks terrible. And he's redone the mulch in my backyard, and I said, hey, why don't you give me an estimate to redo the mulch in my front yard? And he had emailed my wife an estimate to redo the mulch. Well, there was a little communication error. She thought it was the mulch everywhere, didn't understand it was the mulch just for the front, and didn't do anything with the estimate. I said, you should call the customer, or if they're home, just talk to them and go, hey, and build them an estimate on the spot. And say, hey, I noticed your mulch is looking pretty sad out here. Would you like me to scoop all this old mulch out and replace it with new mulch? It'll look 1,000 times better. I can get that done for this price. And so his yes rate on his estimates were 25%. I bet if he goes to in-person or phone call estimates.
His is 25% on just email estimates?
Email, yep. Response and email, yep. So I'm like, go to phone, call them up if they're not home. If they're home, just knock on their door and talk to them. I bet you go to 50% minimum.
Yeah.
Okay. So now imagine this. You give the guys mowing the yards, you say, okay, if you spot anything else, here's an iPad. Here's a system you can use to give that customer a bid to get that stuff fixed. Then you have a crew that all they do is mulch.
Yeah, they do and
those kinds of
install
things.
crew. Quote
Your
unquote.
install crew, right?
Yeah.
And so the yard guys will upsell the mulch. They see the mulch is all nasty and gross. They'll go to the customer, they'll pop it in their iPad, and they'll be like, hey, I noticed your mulch was looking pretty sad. Here's an estimate to get your mulch done. Is that something you would like us to do? And the customer will say, at least 50% of the time, oh, yeah, I would really like you to do that because I don't want to do it. And especially customers that are willing to pay you $309 a month, 12 months out of the year for you to maintain their yard. They don't want to think about their mulch either. They don't want to think about trimming their bushes. They don't want to think about anything, right?
And also, like what I would really like the yard guy to do is just to come up to me like, hey man, so we can get your lawn looking a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Like there's like your lawn, like this particular grass is kind of really crappy, but here's what we can do with this grass to get it to look like this. Now I got a treatment for you. It's going to take this much. So what we can do is, because you're already a member, you know, we can add it into it. So it's only going to be X amount per month, but in 6 months, you're going to have this lawn. Here's a picture of the lawn that you're going to have. Here's some photos that I've took of guys I've done before. This is going to be your lawn. Is that something you'd be interested in? And I'd be like, yeah, that sounds awesome. So you know how this grass is kind of scratchy to walk on? We got different kind of grass that's really soft. Like, I see you got kids, they're running around. Like, check this out. Like, there's so many things that you could
There's so many things. I would keep it simple though.
I know.
I would go mulch, or whatever's normal in your area.
Yeah.
And I would go maybe fertilizing. That's it.
Sure.
Other than that, I would stay out of it.
Be more like the specialty.
Mm-hmm.
That falls maybe in more like the landscaping category
Yep.
of things.
Okay. So now if you've got 10 crews, that is 600 customers. Okay. Now imagine twice a year, just 2 times a year, you sell them on some sort of upgrade package, like new mulch in their beds, maybe some extra trimming, maybe some fertilizer. And each time it's $1,000. Okay. You just made $2,000 extra per customer. So customers that you already had, that you didn't have to spend any more on marketing. You just had to offer them something, right? You just had to offer to replace their mulch and give them a price for it. $2,000 per customer, 600 customers. That's a lot of money right there. How much money is that?
$2,000, 2,000 times
600 times 1,000.
600 times 1,000, 60,000.
600 times 1,000, Joel.
600,000?
600,000. What if you get $2,000 out of them?
Jeez. 1.2 million?
1.2 million.
Wow, just because you upselled a couple things?
Extra revenue.
Wow.
Now, if you have 10% profit on that, that'd
sure.
be 120,000. If you maintain 20%, that would be an extra 240K in profit just by adding those 2 upsells. Okay.
Yeah.
So you went from 450K profit to now you're 450, 550. You're at 690K. Dude, we're good at math, aren't we?
Dude.
So you just went to $690,000 in profit. That's a good profit with 10 crews and 600 customers. And that is totally doable.
Yeah.
It just super simple business model.
Yeah, it just takes like one, understanding sort of the math and how the math actually operates so that you can pay for your services up front. And then just being creative with how you can then sell the customer more things that they need or that they would want.
Yeah. And the trick is, like, if you're going to offer them mulch, offer them 3 different kinds of mulch.
Sure.
But that's it. Not a 4th, not a 5th.
Yeah, not too
Only
many.
have 3 different kinds of mulch. And if you're starting out and you don't have an area to store mulch at your shop, only offer them the mulch that Home Depot has or wherever you get your mulch from. Say, oh, they always have these 3 mulches in stock. These are the one I'm going to offer. And if those mulches are different prices, just pick the cost of the more expensive mulch and use that for all of them. That way, if you go and they're like out of one mulch, you can call the customer and say, hey, they're actually out of that mulch. Do you mind if we use this other mulch? It's actually a more expensive mulch, or vice versa, right? Yeah, dude. Easy business. 690K in profit. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's like, what?
I'd take that all day long.
So I know, right? So what's holding, like, why isn't every company just doing what you suggested?
It starts right at the very beginning. Like, number one, they don't know how to charge. And even if you show them how much to charge, it's easy to get stuck in the mindset of, I do the work, I get paid for the work I do, right? So you're in the blue collar mindset of, I have to work for a living, and you don't know that this is possible.
Yeah, you have to work for a living, and it's good to work for a living. And sometimes it's not good to make too much money for your work if you're not working all the time.
Yeah, people just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
Which is like why this podcast exists.
Right. Right. People don't understand, like, oh, if I have 600 customers and I start selling on mulch,
Sure.
I can make an extra 120K a year.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
And you could probably have like one install guy that just goes and does all your installs.
Yeah.
That's all he does.
And honestly, like,
Borders, mulch.
yeah, that guy, that's like I'm thinking about that job. I'm like, man, that'd be kind of a fun job. All you got to do is go like buy mulch, chuck it in a truck, and
Yeah.
show up and like do some manual labor. Like, you don't
Yeah.
want to talk to nobody. You just by yourself the whole day.
It'd be
Like,
fun.
Yeah. In the sun.
Outside.
Yeah.
Super tan.
Yeah.
If you did it here, you would be.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it'd be super fun. Super, super fun. Probably the only piece missing in here is you would need some sort of good software to make all this happen.
Yeah.
Other than that, you'd be set.
Yeah. What kind of software do you think would be appropriate for this business?
Dude, I wonder if you could, Service Titan would work really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think you can do Service Titan with yard guys.
So I know Service Titan, like I know a locksmithing company, they use Service Titan
Yeah.
and they have retail side and service side.
Yeah, because it wouldn't matter. You'd put it in your price book.
Yeah.
Anything on your retail side,
Yeah.
just live in your price book.
Yeah.
You just hit retail
Yeah.
and then
yeah,
have
sure.
your
And they'd be right
categories
there.
and just have your products in there.
Yeah. I think the important thing is to have some sort of system that makes that. Don't just like do all this with pen and paper and like cell
No.
phones and texting and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
no way.
Like technology can really help you.
Can you imagine if when your yard guy was on his way to your house, you got a text message and it was a picture of the guy that was going to mow your yard and you got a little bio on him and then that guy shows up and mows your yard and then when he clicks done, you get a little text that says thank you. Or when he comes to your house and he notices your mulch needs redone, he comes up and he's got an iPad. He's like, hey, I just noticed your mulch is looking kind of sad out there. I got a few options for you to get this repaired or replaced or whatever. Here's what I got. I went ahead and built you some estimates and presented them to you on an iPad. How professional that would look.
Yeah, it'd be like a real company.
And you'd be like, oh, yeah, let's do that. And he'd be like, okay, cool. Here's the estimate. If you could just sign at the bottom that you're willing to do that work. Okay, let's get you on the schedule.
Yeah, you mind if I just charge your card on file ending in this number? Like, is that going to work?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to get my wallet. Like, no, you don't get your wallet.
Yeah. Let me get you on the schedule. Okay, they're going to be here on this day. La-di-da-di-da. You'll get a text message. Now, the next day, you get a text message. The guy coming to do your mulch is on his way to your house. You see a picture of him. He shows up. He's already got the mulch in hand. He goes and shovels out your old mulch and puts in new mulch, and you're stoked. Super easy.
Why do you? So I use a couple different bug guys, like some for termites, some for just other stuff. And one of the companies, they don't take credit card on site. You have to call into the office to process a credit card. Why is that?
Who is it?
I'm not going to say.
Oh, dude, come on.
Yeah. You want me to say?
Yeah.
Rockies.
Oh, you use Rockies?
Well, because they do our termite thing. Like our.
Yeah.
Whatever those
They
things are
probably don't
called.
have the software to do it.
Yeah. So, but
That's
like,
it.
so why? Like, what's the.
They're probably on some older software and they just don't want to update. It's worked for them this far. And
Yeah. And I guess maybe the thinking is like, it's hard to integrate new software. And that's just like, that seems like such a huge barrier to entry. And I mean, if they can get the credit card over the phone, it's fine, whatever.
they may not even have software. They might be running everything on QuickBooks. Like they might not have like a CRM. Like when I say software, I mean like a CRM.
Yeah, like a CRM that
manages your business.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, another question that is kind of maybe related. Oh, it ties into the QuickBooks thing. So I'll ask people, and you know I'm on this bookkeeping tirade, and I'll ask people if they get a P&L, and they go, I just use my QuickBooks P&L. Like, is that cool? Is that legit?
Yeah. That's where your P&L comes from.
Yeah, sure.
But your P&L has to be accurate. So there has to be somebody going into QuickBooks and making sure all the transactions are classified properly.
Sure, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
If
yeah.
you bought gas and it gets classified as owner pay,
Yeah, because
then it's going to look like you paid yourself a bunch of money and didn't spend much money on gas. Like all that stuff has to be right.
yeah, and QuickBooks, somebody has to be watching QuickBooks to make sure that it's doing the correct classifications.
So you can go in and set rules for QuickBooks
Yeah.
to auto classify things, right? But then every now and then, like when if we started buying gas from a new vendor, it's not going to
sure.
automatically do that.
Yeah.
Or if the vendor like changes something on their end,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to not classify anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody needs to watch for that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is a bookkeeper is going to go in every month and reconcile your books.
Sure.
She's going to make sure that all your credit card transactions, your invoices, your bills, and the money that goes in your bank account and enters and leaves your bank account all matches up.
Yeah.
So that all the numbers are legit.
Yeah. So it's
And all that is saying, okay, the numbers on this P&L are right.
yes.
Because you'll notice if you go pull your books on the first day of the month, you go look at your P&L, and then your bookkeeper goes in and reconciles the books. It's going to be two different P&Ls you're seeing,
Yeah.
right?
And that makes sense because guys will be like, I'll ask them like what their revenue is,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll be like, "Well, QuickBooks says this, but that doesn't make any sense to me because I don't experience that in my real life. Like I don't experience that much
Right.
money in my bank account or whatever it might be."
Right. They're used to looking at their bank account, and that's a dangerous thing because I used to look at my P&L and I'd be like, I don't know where all that money went.
Sure.
But the funny part is the P&L tells you where it went.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really important to organize your P&L properly.
Sure.
And we cover this a lot on this podcast, and I always use the same example.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was to sell these cups right here
Mm-hmm.
for all the listeners, I'm holding up a coffee cup that has a bee on it that my daughter's boyfriend got for her. So
I was like, for boyfriend? I was like,
yeah,
oh,
no.
Brooklyn. Got
Yeah.
it.
So now all of our cups have bees on them.
Yeah, jeez. I thought it was your cup because it was like B for boss.
Now every time I drink coffee, I got to be reminded of my daughter's boyfriend,
Oh,
which is
great.
annoying.
That's annoying. You should
Yeah.
tell him that.
I should take him out.
You know what?
Scare him a little bit.
You know what he's gonna do? The next mug is just gonna be his face on it.
Probably.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, he's gonna start getting me mugs with J's on them. Be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He's a nice kid.
Yeah, he should get a mug of like him photoshopped with you. 'Cause it'd just be hilarious.
Okay, I'll think about that.
Yeah, I'll tell Brooklyn to tell him.
Okay, so
You know how to get to Jared's heart?
If-
photoshopped photos.
this mug right here, spilling stuff. This mug right here is made in China. Okay, so that's sold by Threshold. So Threshold, if this is all they sell, we'll get this out of the way. If this was all they sold, coffee everywhere. This mug is made in China, and they're probably a U.S. company, and so they went to China, some China company, and they said, we want mugs with bees on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they paid that company, and that company shipped these mugs over to U.S. company. And U.S. company then sold them to people in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Probably some box store bought this from said U.S. company, okay? So when they pay the money for this mug, that is a cog. So on your P&L, you have total revenue at the top, and then you have COGS, cost of goods sold. This is what they're selling. They're buying and reselling coffee cups.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
And then when these get shipped out, they probably get packaged. They probably get repackaged. So they probably buy these in mad amounts of bulk from China, and then they get repackaged and sent off to wherever they're going. So their cost of goods sold are the mug and the packaging. They're basically buying and reselling coffee cups and packaging. Okay. When you're in like a home service business, a plumbing business, a yard business, right? You are buying and reselling skilled labor and materials. So plumbing business, we buy and sell plumbers, labor, and materials. Yard business, they're buying yard guys' labor, like the guy doing the yard maintenance, and if they use any materials like mulch,
Yeah.
okay, that's what they're buying and reselling. Okay,
What about gas?
I don't know. Gas could go either or. Like gas,
I mean, because I guess gas for vehicles, gas for equipment.
yeah, gas in your truck, I would want that in overhead. Gas for
The tools.
equipment, I'd probably leave it in overhead. I would literally just put the labor up there in COGS. Okay, so what you want to do is when you, because it's going to vary depending on what
How
yard.
do you make that choice? Like what's in the cogs when it's like, cause like you need the gas in your mower or else you can't do the work.
Well, you need the gas in your truck to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
You
like,
need the truck to get there, but that's
but trucks
in your
isn't
overhead.
there. Yeah.
So the way that I guess the best way to think about it is, and you can't think too hard because then you're going to ruin yourself.
Because then you're going to, go through every tiny little thing. And
If this isn't going to answer a question, but I'm going to say it anyways.
okay, I'm ready for it.
If you stop doing business, like people stop calling you and you still have the expense, it's definitely overhead.
Gotcha.
Okay. In this case, like a yard guy, if people stopped calling him, all his contracts canceled, he'd still have to pay the truck payments. He'd still have to pay the insurance. The guys, he wouldn't necessarily have to pay. If he didn't have any work, guys could go home, right? But you wouldn't have to pay for the gas in the mowers either.
No, so they wouldn't be used.
And the trucks wouldn't be used, so you wouldn't pay for the gas in the trucks. So kind of a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
But in this case, my only stuff in my cogs, if I was running this business, I would put my labor, just the infield labor, and I would put whatever materials they used. Okay?
Yeah.
And what that's going to do for you is you're going to be able to watch. You're going to be able to get your P&L, and you're going to have total revenue at the top. And then you're going to subtract out your yard guy labor, and you're going to subtract out your materials, and it's going to give you gross profit. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be able to run that as a percentage. Mm-hmm. And after tracking that time and time again, you're going to get to know my gross profit percentage when is typically this, right? Mm-hmm. So when all my guys are busy and we're doing our thing, my gross profit percentage is 50%. That tells you right there how to price your products, right? So now you know when you're pricing like certain products, I just need to hit 50% gross margin. So if I mark up my labor and my materials 100% each, I'll hit 50% gross margin. Done, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. It also, what you also need to watch in there is, okay, if total revenue is 100% and my gross margin is 50%, that means I have 50% left over for everything else. And my overhead is 30% and my net profit is 20%. Now you kind of know I got to keep my overhead costs they have to be no more than 30% of total revenue, or I'm going to start eating in to my net profit margins. So when you're thinking about spending on new expenses or overhead, you go look at what percentage you're at, and what percentage this new expense is going to get you to, and you decide whether it's a good idea or not because of how it's going to affect your P&L. The best way to think of your P&L is as the report card for your business. It tells you the story of what's going on. Right? If you're normally at 50% gross profit and you run your P&L 1 month and all of a sudden you only are at 30%. So your expenses, your COGS were high or your revenue was down or both, right? Now you know you have something wrong with that's on the job. It's not an overhead expense. It's on the job. So it kind of tells you where to look, right? Tells you the story.
And if your P&L isn't correct because you're just using your QuickBooks P&L, nothing's
then it doesn't tell you anything.
And you don't have good data.
And you have no idea, right? So it's important to look at. When you're looking at that, though, you have to be careful because there's things that will affect your P&L, right? So you can do things in your business that will throw off your P&L. Because typically you're looking at your P&L monthly. Like any bank is going to go look at your P&L monthly if you get a loan. And so if I bought, if I landed a big job, let's say you're a yard company and you go land, let's say a bunch of mulch. You got it's like a $30,000 job. This guy's got a ton of mulch on his property,
everywhere.
right? And so you go buy the mulch on the last day of the month.
Sure.
And then you don't bill the customer until the second day of the following month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you go look month to month,
Mm-hmm.
you had a major expense at the end of the month.
Mm.
And so this month, your net profit's going to be down, but you're going to get it back the next month, but you don't know that
Mm-hmm.
until you get into the next month and profit was way up. And so you think, dang, this month was really, really good. That was awesome,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know why. And you need to know those things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would try to avoid those things because it can go the other way as well.
Yeah.
What if I sell a big job like a $30,000 mulch job and I collect 50% down on the last day of the month? But then I got to go buy $15,000 worth of mulch
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of the following month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I go look at my P&L, it's going to look like I have an extra $15,000
Mm-hmm.
because I got paid that. And it's not going to show the amount of money that had to go out to pay for the mulch.
Right.
And it's going to affect next month is going to be down. And it's literally going to be almost a month and a half later before you're looking at your P&L going, why was this month down?
Yeah.
And you're not going to remember that you got paid
Yeah.
that big down payment. You didn't buy the mulch till the next month,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mm-hmm. So if you can do things like if you get paid 50% down, go buy the mulch right away.
Yeah, sure.
Make sure and buy it that same month. Yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Yeah.
In the other instance, if you buy the mulch that month, you should be billing the customer 50% down so that now you're semi sort of even as possible, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times what'll happen is guys will have charge accounts at their supply houses and they won't pay it until the next month.
Sure. Yeah. So then you're lagging a month.
You're lagging a month on all of your books.
Oh man, that
So
would
you're paying
suck.
for last
That would be
month
so lame.
and you really have no idea like what's going on in your business. No
Yeah,
clue.
It's just it's hard to think because you're like, okay, month previous. You got to do a bunch of weird math.
Bunch of weird math. You have to match last month's materials with this month's stuff.
You probably have to like make a spreadsheet that does that for you so that you can just look at your spreadsheet.
You could probably do it in QuickBooks somehow.
Yeah. Have a trailing month report thing or something.
Yeah, we just keep it easy and pay our stuff every day.
Yeah.
Literally pay it every day.
Yeah.
Accounts get paid every day. Credit cards get paid every day.
I mean, that's so nice about service because you can actually do that. You're not
Yeah.
like, okay, finally landed a big job. Let's go buy all the materials and get paid for the job in a while.
But even then, if we do land a big job, like we'll do $60,000 boiler jobs, like boiler installs, and we will get paid 50% down. We'll get $30K, and then we'll go buy all the materials, and then
Yeah.
we'll pay those materials off,
Yeah.
all in the same couple days, just so that we don't have this lagging P&L problem, and we think we're doing terrible when in fact we're doing okay, or we think we're doing great when in fact we're not doing so
Yeah.
good.
Because then you make changes or you don't make changes, and then it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Important stuff.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff starts with just knowing where your money is going and how much money things are actually costing you.
Yeah, I would say don't operate your business on feeling like what feels like we're doing good, and don't be afraid to like lean in and look at your bank accounts and really figure it out. Because like I've talked to guys and
Looking at your bank balances is not a good way to judge how much money you're making.
no, because you could be in any cycle of the month where maybe you just got paid for a bunch of stuff, or maybe you just bought a bunch of stuff. So it's not a good indication of like I'm doing a good job.
Yep. Nope. The only way to do that on your bank, there's a book called Profit First, where you set up multiple bank accounts and you have an income account. When money comes in, it comes into the income account. And then you have you have an expense account, you have a profit account, you have an owner compensation account, you have a taxes account, and you take a certain percentage of the money coming in and you allocate it to each of the accounts. That's the best way. So when you go to pay expenses out of your expense account and there's not enough money in there, and so you have to pull from your profit or owner comp account,
Yeah.
well, that means your expenses are too high or you're not charging enough
Yeah.
or you didn't do enough work.
Yeah. Sure.
It's one of those three things.
Yeah.
And so it gives you it gives you the ability to go back and look and know there's a problem.
Yeah, instead of just going, there's a problem, but I don't really know where it's at.
Yeah. And it also allows you to set aside money for taxes.
Yeah.
Which I would do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Taxes are a booger. That's another thing a lot of
They're a
guys
booger.
don't think about. Taxes.
As far as setting money aside.
Yeah, I mean, so like in this case, if you grew this 10 crew yard maintenance company and you were making $690,000 a year, you're going to owe 30% of that to the government. You're going to have a $220,000 tax bill. $215,000. It's a big tax bill.
Especially if you're not like prepared for it, or if you're
Yeah.
not allocating funds for it, and you suddenly get hit with that bill.
Correct.
You're like, oh, cool.
Yep.
It's like $250,000.
Cool part about a yard company is you'll have lots of depreciable equipment, though.
True.
Because you've got trucks, you've got trailers, you've got mowers. You can depreciate all of those. So at the end of the year, before the end of the year, I'd be thinking about, I'd have a really good understanding of, okay, how much money did I actually make? What are my goals for next year? Do I want to grow? And what's my tax burden going to be? And then how many more vehicles, trailers, mowers do I got to buy to get that tax burden down?
Real quick, tax privilege.
Tax privilege.
Yeah, it's a privilege that we are allowed to pay taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we should be very grateful.
Even though it's illegal.
No, it's not illegal. It's a privilege.
No,
it's necessary. There's people in the world who desperately need to be bombed. Somebody's got to fund that. You know what I'm saying?
We don't want to get into this conversation.
I'm just saying, somebody's got to do it. Might as well be you and me.
How did the federal government make, well, there was no federal government. Is that what happened? Like we had to start paying taxes because all of a sudden we had a federal government? Because originally we set it up without a federal government because we knew the federal government would just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, like the founding fathers knew.
Yeah, and I think
And
they
knew there had to be competition between the states, but at some point in time, we needed some sort of government to govern the states.
Yeah, and man, I don't know anything about this, so I can only completely guess. My guess is it came into the fact when somebody was like, man, we could really use a unified military to like fight things because that has to be funded from somewhere. And you can't just be like, all right, like this state has a military, this state has a military, because then you get into the situation, okay, everybody's got standing armies. Like, what's going on here? So I bet if I had to guess, it'd have something to do with like, well, we have to fund the military in some way. And then that means money has to go from everybody to a central force or central place to then to be able to do stuff. And then from there, you're probably like, hey, we could collect more money to do other stuff now. And then you start to probably build bureaucracy, and then all the stuff goes from there. And then
next thing you know, it's this big,
huge
thing,
crappy thing
that can't be stopped.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next podcast, Jared and Joel are going to get political.
Dude, we probably don't want to do that.
It'd mostly be like, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. They are literally just thinking out loud.
So you would think like being born and raised in America and having gone through the American school system, I would know more about like our political structure, right? But I don't. And I probably should learn because it's important stuff.
Yeah.
Because I definitely have political opinions. Like I didn't vote for a long time, piss my father-in-law off.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, when I turned 18, he was like, you're going to go vote, right? And I was like, no.
Why would I participate in a system that doesn't do anything for me?
That's not why I didn't vote. He would say, people died for your right to vote. So you should exercise that right. And he's not wrong. But I would also see the commercials on TV of, you know, you need to exercise your right to vote, and be like all these college kids going to go vote. And I was like, those college kids don't even know what they're voting for.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Like, I think it's worse just to go vote for the sake of voting.
Sure.
I think you should educate yourself on what you actually believe in, which as an 18-year-old kid is pretty tough to do.
Yeah, like what do you know when you're 18?
Like, look at all the 18-year-old kids these days. We'd have one messed up country if they were the only ones voting.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion. And so I didn't vote for a long, long time.
When did you start voting?
Literally like the last like 3 years.
Gotcha.
It took me that long to like really pin down my ideologies
Sure. And like what you felt was
and my
right
political
and
views.
made
Yep.
sense. Yeah.
Because in my mind, I can't separate I don't have religious views, political views. What other kind of views are there?
Economic, perhaps?
Economic views. Even just like my moral views, they're all lumped together.
Yeah, it's not like you have clean buckets of each
No.
that can be completely contradictory so
No.
that you can go and like participate in each forms of whatever.
Yeah, they're all bundled together.
Yeah.
And so they all start with my belief that we were created by a God. And I can't separate that from my political views.
Mm-hmm.
But I see people go, here's the thing. People go way too hardcore on that too.
Sure.
I think. Like they're like, well, I'm voting for this guy because he's a Christian. I'm like, well, what if he's got some really crappy political views? Who cares if he's a Christian, right? What if he's going to do a bunch of harm? Like, what does that matter?
Yeah.
If he's a Christian, like, okay, maybe he's against abortion, which I would be against, but what if he's for a bunch of other stuff? And the fact is, he's not going to have any change on abortion, but he can have effect on change on this other stuff. So there's a lot that goes into it.
And also then you have to take into account, like, yeah, he can say whatever he wants, but that doesn't mean that he's actually the thing you would like him to be.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very convenient to believe that he is what you want him to be, but he's also a politician.
Yeah.
And his job is to convince people to put him in a position of power.
Yep.
If he wants that power really bad, he's going to say whatever it needs to get him in that position, no matter how awesome you might think he is.
So that's why I think you need to go, if you're going to vote between some candidates, you need to go research all of the candidates and go to their websites, go look at their past voting history, go look at what they support, go look at who supports them, and make an educated decision on who the best candidate is for this job and what their job duties are. Otherwise, I don't know how you can vote for somebody. I don't know how you can just say, I like this guy. He's a Republican and he's a Christian.
He's got a good haircut.
I mean, I can kind of sort of get behind that, but to go in and cast a vote and say, I support this guy over this guy. For me, I have to know, I would have to go research that for me to make that vote confidently. Otherwise, I can be making a huge mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess what you'd really be compromising is just your own internal consistency.
Yeah. I mean, just even, I guess the one that really drives me nuts is people who just have no clue, so they go vote.
Sure, they just go fill in a circle, or they just actually probably just vote whoever their friend said to vote or whatever. Somebody typically in their circle has an opinion, and they'll just go with that opinion.
Yeah, if you're a Republican, you just vote Republican. I generally agree with Republican views, so I'm going to vote Republican.
Right.
Or I generally agree with Democratic views, so I'm going to vote Democratic. Or, even worse, I agree with this one thing for the Republicans or Democrats, so I'm going to vote for them across the board on everything. It's like, that's silly. And to not think about that through the lens of everything else in your life doesn't make any sense to me. So, and I remember, do you remember, like I had to go through, like in my own thoughts, right? It was, I had to really come to the realization as an adult that, okay, I really do believe we were created, believe we were created by a God. Do you remember I read the book, actually, it started with, there was a book called The Maker's Diet. Did you ever read that?
I bought it, but I never read it.
Oh, dude, it's a good book. It's a good story. Like, it's a inspiring story. Guy was super unhealthy, started eating a certain way, created this diet that he called The Maker's Diet. Really good book. Eye-opening. And it's is the first time in my life where I read something and I learned some information and it made so much sense that to me, it was like, okay, this is true. I could like stake it in the ground and say, okay, this thing right here is true. And I stake it, right? In my mind. And then there were some other books that I read, like The Science of Getting Rich was one of them,
Mm-hmm.
where it was like there was some things in that book that made so much sense that also related to my belief that we were created, and then some things I learned in the other book. And now I had these 2 stakes or these 3 stakes, right? And they're these things, they're truths that I learned, things that I'm so confident that they're true that I can live my life by them.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And then there was another book, the Pigness of Pigs, The Marvelous Pigness of Pigs by Joel Salatin. You read that one, right? Excellent book. Where he talks, there's a lot in there about, your beliefs and economics and those kinds of things. Some other things that I would be like, you know what? This guy is 100% right about this. And so for me, my ability to go vote, I had to work through all of these things and learn these things that I thought were true. So then I can go out there and say, you know what? I believe these things to be true. What candidate do I believe? Actually, what political structure, like how do I view politics that fits these beliefs as well?
Sure.
That matches up with these, because they're all intertwined.
Right.
And it's like a step of learning things where one thing wouldn't have made sense had I not learned the other thing first. It's fun. It's interesting. I like that stuff. Silence.
Just thinking.
You got nothing, dude. You're thinking way too hard.
It's my.
It's a podcast. You can't think.
It's my superpower.
Thinking.
And my my greatest fault.
It's your greatest fault over your superpower.
Yes.
That's one of the truths I learned in Alex Hormozy's book. What does he call that?
Mental masturbation. Hey man, it's just good thinking, All my thoughts turn into action at some point.
I think it's important to think about stuff, but I think there's a lot of people that definitely overthink things. I think we see it. We know some people that we could agree that all they do is think about things, and they never.
Yeah.
They always talk themselves. They think themselves out of acting on anything.
Yeah, because it's like I think what happens is that thinking takes the place of work in their mind. So thinking equals productivity, even when thinking results in nothing happening. Yeah,
and there's analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
But I would say that's different.
That is different. That's just you have so much information that you don't know what to do because maybe everything looks good or everything looks bad, and you haven't made a choice yet.
Yep.
And then there's just thinking, because instead of doing work, you can just think about doing work, and then you typically just talk yourself out of doing it.
Well, and you just kind of get off on thinking about things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
that's what I would term mental masturbation.
Yeah. And you really like thinking about it.
Yeah. You just enjoy thinking about it to the extent of ridiculousness.
Yeah. See, I would say that because you give me a hard time for mental masturbation all the time.
Yeah.
But whenever I'm thinking and trying to figure things out, I'm trying to get a better understanding of the thing I'm talking about. And I just happen to have to talk to figure stuff out. I can't just figure it out in my own brain.
Yeah, I know.
And some things are really complex. You have to think about them a lot.
I kind of agree with you, but I think, so for me personally, if it makes sense, I don't have to understand all the underlying things, right? If I'm looking at something and it makes logical sense, there's some common sense, this makes enough sense to where I'm going to go do it.
Sure.
I don't need to understand all the little things.
Sure.
For you, however, you want to understand all those little things, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Sure.
But I think people get stuck. They're thinking about all these little things and they forget about common sense. And just quick logical thinking of, I have enough information to say, yes, this is a good idea. So yes, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to forget about the rest. The forgetting about the rest is the part that people have a hard time doing.
Yeah, because typically when you're saying forgetting about the rest, it seems like you're forgetting about the doubts about the other thing or the doubts about.
But at some point in time, And this is a great lesson for anybody who owns a business. You have to commit to something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you commit to nothing.
Yeah.
There is no in between.
Yeah.
If you're not growing, you're dying. And you have to look at the limited information you have and the limited understanding you have and think about just the common sense of it, the logical side of it, and compare it to what you've seen happen in the past and move forward with it and discover all the bad parts and discover all the good parts, because you can sit over there and think about it all you want. But the reality is you don't even know. You have no idea what's going to happen until you do it.
Yeah.
Right?
And even when you listen to other people who've done it and their experiences, it's completely different when you yourself experience it.
Yeah.
Because then it's almost like just by experiencing the very thing, you're taught. And like, not even necessarily in like words and actions, you're just like, oh, I'm walking into more understanding of this.
I paid a guy $100,000 last year for 12 one-on-one coaching calls.
Did you finish all those?
I didn't even finish them.
I was going to say, I was like, I don't think you did them all.
I did like 7. So I paid him $100,000 for 7 one-on-one coaching calls. And you know what I learned? My most valuable lesson that I learned from this guy, the only thing I learned, he makes way more money than I do. Very successful. Millions and millions of dollars. The only thing I learned from him was that he has no idea what he's doing. And nobody does.
Yeah.
I mean, they do to an extent.
Yeah.
But the reason this guy has made so much money is because he just kept having ideas, kept executing on them.
Sure.
And then eventually a couple of them stuck really well. And then
he hired people in there to take care of them and then to grow them.
And he realizes that. And so when I talk to him,
he does realize that.
Oh yeah, he knows it.
Yeah.
And so when I talk to him, he's like, man, I just have to keep batting because eventually I'm going to hit one home run that is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And he knows it.
And it's going to win the day.
He goes, all it is one home run to become a billionaire. That's all I need. I need that $1 billion opportunity. So I'm going to keep going until I find it. It's like Jeff Bezos compares business to baseball. He said, in baseball, you can hit a home run and get, max of 4 runs in.
Yeah.
But in business, when you hit a home run, the payoff can be 1,000 times, 10,000 times, infinite times. And that the best thing you can do is just to keep swinging, keep trying for those home runs. But it was a good realization to know, like, these guys don't know what they're doing. These guys with millions and millions of dollars, they know some stuff. They have some experience.
They have a skill set that they've honed that
they
gives
have
them
some
certain
skill
advantages.
sets.
But there's so much about timing and market entry and what do they do to get the first money to do the next thing.
They literally make decisions off of, okay, this seems like a good deal. My past experience tells me it's going to be halfway decent.
When I look around in the marketplace, this seems like something that is done really well, so it can work for me, or nobody's doing it, so I can enter into the space and just do it really well.
Common sense and quick logic tells me this is the right decision.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
They have no idea.
And then they get into it and they go, oh, I didn't anticipate this. Okay, well, let me fix this. And then that opens up another new little revelatory moment where they have to think about something different.
Yep. And sometimes it ends in, this didn't work out.
Yeah, sometimes it ends in pivots or failures or whatever.
Yep.
And you just kind of keep squiggling away.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't lose all your money.
Yep.
Until you find something you're like, actually, this one actually might work.
Right.
Like, we've definitely experienced this of squiggling a lot.
Oh, dude.
And then landing in things where we're like, this seems like it could work.
Yeah.
And then we're like, I don't think it's really going to work that good.
Yeah. Or we go, this kind of works. How do we make it work better?
Yeah, it kind of works, but it doesn't work as fast or in a way that we want.
Yeah.
So what action can we do? How can we change?
Common sense and logic tells me maybe we should try this.
Yeah. And then sometimes there's just a little gut feeling of like, well, like if you have all the common sense and logic, but it's not quite convincing, but your gut's like, dude, just go for it. And you're like, well, let's just let her rip and we'll figure it out on the other side.
Let her rip, tater chip.
Let her rip, tater chip.
That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how to be successful.
Yeah.
It's like trying all these things, going for it. And I would say I guess people who run businesses, like the difference between them and people who just mow yards for a living, they think a little bit differently. They want to keep growing it. They want to keep making more and more money. So it becomes, how do I buy back my time, right? So I'm the guy mowing yards, so now I need to pay somebody to mow yards, so now I get my time back. Now I can mow more yards if I need to, or if I have enough guys out in the field. Now I can start putting together better back-end processes or software, or setting up for new guys, or managing the guys I have, and just continually go from there. So always trying to figure out how to. You're basically, what you're doing when you're growing a business is you're buying back your time, but it's so that you can do higher leverage things.
Yes.
So you can focus your attention on things that are going to have more, your output is going to have more of an effect on your income that way. Yeah. And the reason that works is because nobody cares as much as you do.
True.
Hands down.
True.
Cool, man.
Sweet, dude. See you next time.
Later, Holmes.